Texas Tech Athletics Podcast, where food and sports clash at the goal line. Here are your hosts, Spencer and Michael.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I am your host, Spencer, joined by Michael. Michael, what's up, man?
Man, I'm enjoying the streak we're on. I mean, did I jinx it? Did I jinx it by saying out loud? Oh boy,
jinxes aren't real, right?
The podcast jinx. It doesn't count if it's recorded. If someone heard it live, then maybe.
Yeah, well, here we are.
I know we are live, but still, but still.
Do. Texas Tech takes down Cincinnati tonight, which will be the bulk of what we talk about. 81-71. Still undefeated on the road. If we're going to talk about jinxes and laying it on, let's just keep piling it on, I guess.
Throw it out there.
Texas Tech did get a home conference victory this weekend. We'll also talk about that as they took down a streaking Arizona team. Then you got Cincinnati tonight. And then in a strange twist on the schedule, Oklahoma State on Sunday. So,
who is currently, would you like a score update?
I would love a score update.
They are currently down 4 at halftime hosting Arizona. They are losing 43-39.
Well, they're hanging around.
Absolutely they are. Gallagher-Iba looked pretty rocking compared to some recent games. I think everyone's excited to see Arizona for the first time, or the first time in many moons. Many moons.
Yeah, because Oklahoma State, it's not been going their way this season. Haslam has them at 129th. And going into today, Texas Tech was at 12. Cincinnati 38. It was actually a 2.5 point margin there for Haslametrics. Texas Tech over Cincinnati. You at one point had a 12-point lead and flexed a little bit of your muscles. You did so many good things offensively. It was just a good thing to see. It did take a while to get going. I think Texas Tech was like something ridiculous, like 1 for 8 from 3 to start the game. And they weren't all bad shots, like they weren't forced, they weren't like you weren't covered or anything, but they just weren't falling. But then they started to go in, and then you poured it on. It's magnificent to see. You broke that streak, Michael. You had 2 games in a row where opponents didn't score in the last almost 6+ minutes.
Yes.
That didn't happen tonight. Cincinnati did put some points up on the board.
Yeah, the game tonight, I mean, aside from that large lead, or the largest lead that Tech had, it was nice to not see them allow Cincinnati go on these epic runs that we've kind of seen. They were able to contain them either defensively or get a ball to go through the basket and just make it, something that could have been 7-2 is just 5-2, or whatever it is. It helps. It helps to see that, and I think that's definitely some improvement, and especially to do it on the road. I know, Cincinnati came into the conference schedule ranked, and then immediately went 0-4, and have dropped 5 altogether. I think they're 2-5 in Big 12 play, so they're not playing very good ball right now, or they're just on a rough stretch. But I don't care. You went on the road and took down a team, made it look pretty, I don't want to say easy, but I don't remember getting very worked up during this game, even when they got it within 5, possibly even 3. Tech was making buckets. They weren't letting Cincinnati just run away with these insane runs that we've seen them allow in some of the first Big 12 games.
Yeah, so you came out of the half in front by 6. You never gave up the lead in the second half. The biggest run Cincinnati was able to put together in the second half was 5 points. And that was over 35 seconds there, between 3:30 and 2:55 left. But at that point, it went from 75-65 to 75-68. Which, like, wait a minute, Spencer, that's not 5 points. Yeah, I know. But that's what Stat Broadcast says. um, you break that little bit of a streak with a couple of free throws. Yeah, you didn't let them. I mean, okay, they had a 6-point run to start their scoring in the first half. You broke it with a 3. They went on another 6-point run. That was it. Then it was back and forth. And any runs were Texas Tech putting things together. So you went, they had a 7-point lead there with 12 minutes to go in the first half. And then from there, it was just very methodical. Every possession, it was a defensive stop. You get down the field, get down the court. You hit a shot. You get back. You force a turnover. You get back. It's back and forth like this. You keep chipping away at it. So over those last 12 minutes in the first half, you went from down 12 to you were up 7 before they hit a 3. No, sorry. Yeah. They hit a 3 with about a minute to go. And then, like I said, in the second half, you went from a 6-point lead. You had double-digit lead there for, it was floating around between, it was like 7, 9, 11, and then Cincinnati would go on these little runs and get it back down to 7. You're like, all right, let's not get too mixed up here. And then you'd put those 4 points right back up. You get back to 11-point lead, and they would chip away at it like methodically, but real slow. I mean, you got 8:58 left. You were up 11. 6:57 left. So 2 minutes later, you were up 5. You're like, all right. So it went from a 3-4 possession game down to a 2 possession game. And then you hit a 3, they hit a 3, and then you go on a 7-point run, over the next minute and a half, from up 5 to up 12 again. And then from there, you just kind of, put the brakes on. Bandango did what he did against you last year. He was, he's a big guy in the middle. I say that I don't think he affected as many shots as I would have expected him to, as the big 7-footer in the middle. It did seem early on Texas Tech was hesitant.
Yeah, I don't think Tech
go
was
into the paint,
taking very many shots in the paint. I think they only had 26 in the paint, or 26 points.
But then you saw JT Toppin was just unfazed by it. He was going low. He had so many of those beautiful left-handed hook shots. It was just ridiculous. Speaking of, Toppin is your leading scorer on the evening. 20 points, 9 of 15 from the field. Did hit a 3 and only 1 free throw. Added 5 rebounds, 2 assists. Did have 4 turnovers though. Chance McMillan was the spark, at least behind the arc, to get you guys get Texas Tech going. Added 17 points, 5 of 10 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3. Perfect from the line. Overton added 14.
Yeah.
Christian Anderson was just an offensive spark tonight. 18 points, 5 of 9. He was also leading the charge behind the arc, 4 of 7. 4 of 5 from the free throw line.
Yeah, Overton had been relatively quiet lately, and to see him bounce back in this game when Tech really probably needed it. Needed a little bit of a spark off the bench. Aside from Anderson, who's been great, he didn't have his best game against Arizona, but that's just one game. I mean, tonight he was really. I mean, what we've come to expect from a freshman coming off, one of the best 6 men possibly in college basketball. He's got to be up there. He may be up there in the conversation. I would imagine he's the best 6 man freshman in the country. But I did want to correct one thing. I hate to do this, but Toppin only had 1 turnover. I think you skipped up to Darian Williams. Darian Williams had 4.
You're right. You're right.
Toppin really excelled tonight. Everything you mentioned him doing, he did in 24 minutes. 20 points in 24 minutes.
Yeah. You were talking about Anderson. He had the most minutes tonight, 35, more than any starter. Elijah Hawkins had 33. Chance McMillan had 32. Anderson, like I said, had 35. Nobody else had more than 30. I'd heard some musings about playing time for Kerwin Walton. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not going to say anything that y'all don't already know. I think a lot of what this may stem from, though, Michael, I just want to see what your thoughts are on it. His role last season was so different, and I think a lot of it was because of how teams were defending or trying to defend Pop Isaacs, or how much the offense was Pop Isaacs led, and then if it wasn't there for him, like he was able to find open shooters because the defense was collapsing on Isaacs. So Walton had a lot more open shots, open looks. At least that's what I was hearing, and I heard that and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Because with this team, the way that there are offensive threats outside of Walton. I think you've seen that McCaslin is a little less lenient on a Walton lapse in defense to leave him out there for too long. You saw tonight there was a foul or a turnover, whatever it was, and like he was huddled up with the players on the court, and there was a subgroup coming in, and he was just like side-eyeing the whole time over at the sub table. Like he knew he was coming out. Like the second the whistle was blown, he was like look over the table. And that's not a great spot to be in, right? Mentally, like
Yeah.
You think like any kind of mistake, lapse in defense, turnover, whatever, foul, and you're coming off because your offense isn't there. And then you do something like that on defense. So his role has changed. He's not been allowed to kind of play through some things. So it's I don't know why the full-time switch hasn't been made, unless they're still trying to like give him as much of an opportunity as they can stand or allow to. And I mean, he's a senior, like this is his 3rd year in the program. You gotta say like he's may have earned it. I don't know, but 0 points tonight in 10 minutes. He took 1 shot and had a foul.
Yeah, and against Arizona, played 5 minutes, and the only thing he recorded was a turnover. Didn't even take a shot. I'm with you. I don't fully understand it. Obviously, if he's not getting the ball on the offense, it's kind of hard to determine what he is or is not capable of. I do like that Hawkins pushes the ball quite a bit, tries to get the big guys involved, tries to draw some contact. It's not. I enjoy this offense a lot more with Hawkins facilitating it than I did with Isaacs, because I felt like a lot of times it was just Isaacs was going to eventually just take a shot at some point. Now Hawkins has gotten a little bit more confident in taking shots, and sometimes I feel like, oh man, I don't know if I'd have done that one. But hey,
Some of his
I,
threes were wild.
yeah, I mean, like tonight he was 1 of 8 from three. Not his best night as far as shooting. 3 assists though, couple turnovers. Which hey, I think Level mentioned it before the Arizona game. He's got one of the highest assist to turnover ratios in maybe the highest in the Big 12. So he's got to be ranked up there, probably in top 20 in the country or so. So 2 turnovers, that's nothing. I think he had 0 against Arizona State. He had 9 assists. So I mean, he was dishing it all over the place and still somehow kept hold of the ball. Um, but yeah, he was 0 for 5 against Arizona State. Or sorry, Arizona. I think I said that twice. 0 of 5 against Arizona on threes. So okay, some stuff to work with there. Maybe get it to Walton in those instances if he's still allowed to be on the court. But I think the main thing they're trying not to mess with is the positive Anderson vibes coming off the bench.
Sure.
And I think that could be a potential reason for why we're going to see Walton in the starting lineup for a good while. Obviously, Anderson thrives. He probably would be a great starter, but I mean, there's guys that just thrive being a
Well,
6 man, and that may be where he's at. I could see possibly Overton
that's what I was going to
playing
say.
for Walton, starting and still giving Anderson the chance to come off the bench. And who knows, maybe Walton would be better off the bench. I feel like he was in some of those games we saw last year where he would. I don't remember him starting as much last year. Maybe he did, but I felt like that was kind of a good break for him too to be able to come off the bench and kind of give a jolt and be able to make some big shots. But that's my theory. I mean, my biggest theory is they just want to do the best thing to make sure Anderson's still comfortable coming off the bench, and maybe they're just not quite ready to put Overton in that position.
This season, Walton has played in and started all 17 games.
Hmm.
Last season, he played in 33, started 26.
Okay, so he did start in almost all of them last season.
Yeah. And then something else I find interesting, like his first year, played in 27 games, started only 7 in 2022, 2023. So,
And that was with Adams, obviously. So different, different mindset, different things happening there. He was obviously 2 years younger, but I think as a fan base, we're just kind of not. I don't want to say lost, but we've seen what he can do, and it's not so much that he's stopped doing it; it's that he just hasn't had the chance to. He's not getting the ball. He's not getting off shots. He's going 0 for 1 or he's going 1 for 2 and he's playing 18 minutes or something. It's seems like a concerted effort for the ball to not really touch his hands when he's on the on offense. And like you said, I was this player. I mean, I was never a starter. Well, I was like once 1 year, but not really. I mean, I was mostly a come off the bench guy, and so every time that buzzer sound or whatever, I was looking over to the scoreboard because I felt like, okay, well, that was fun. Got to play my 2 minutes, and it does kind of, yeah. You just feel like you can never really settle and never really get in the game if you just feel like any second you're going to get pulled. So that I can sympathize with, and that's hard.
Yeah. Again, like he played 10 minutes tonight. He played 5 minutes. He's averaging 17 minutes a game. Last season, he was averaging 25. What's interesting though, in his 25 minutes last year, he was attempting 6 field goals a game. In his 17 minutes, he's attempting 4.
And that's probably even skewed from. I mean, he had some great early season performances this season, if I remember correctly. Like out of the gate, we thought, oh man, Walton is so back. We are ready. And then it's just kind of died off. And I don't think it's necessarily his fault per se. It's just if the ball's not coming to you, I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, it was game number 1, Bethune-Cookman. He was 7 of 14 from the field, 7 of 12 from 3, 21 points. He put up 11 versus Northwestern State, 3 versus Wyoming, 9 versus Arkansas Pine Bluff, 8 versus St. Joseph's, 0, 2, 3, 0, 6, 2, 0, 6, 0, 2, 2, 0.
Yeah, and that St. Joseph's game was a big game.
Yeah.
He helped keep you in it.
Played 24 minutes that night, went 2 of 4. Hit all 3 of his free throw attempts. He hasn't attempted a free throw since. Nope, that's wrong. Northern Colorado, he attempted 2. So since November 29th, he's not attempted a free throw. Anyways, I don't want to like pile on Walton.
No, I don't think we are. I think there's some offensive decision going on here, and I don't understand what it is. Some coaching decision.
Yeah, I've been pinning some comments as they come in, but Ryan Bradley, it's an absolutely miserable feeling as an athlete to constantly be looking over your shoulder with every mistake or missed shot in his case. Such a mental pit to try and climb out of. Yeah,
Yes,
it's tough.
Been there. Most of my quote unquote career, you can't even call it that, but my time playing basketball, the majority of it was, am I going to get put? Oh yeah, that's me. That there's a big guy coming off the bench. That's me. I'm going.
That's for me.
I didn't rotate fast enough. I didn't block out or something or whatever. And sometimes it was innocuous. Sometimes it was just they wanted to put somebody else in, but you still have that in your head. You feel like, oh, what did I do wrong? And so, but then you would have to realize or talk to some other players on the bench or one of the coaches, and they would just say, nothing. No, we just wanted to get so and so in. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So with the win tonight, Texas Tech moves to 14-4 overall, 5-2 in Big 12 play. And you look back, and you're like, man, that 1 point versus Iowa State.
Just laying an egg against UCF, who got completely blown out of the gym tonight. They lost 108-83 up in Ames. So that is just that loss is just looking worse and worse, especially how it transpired. Going down 17 and anyway.
But sandwich between there, you did not sandwich because you've had a couple of good wins here. Cincinnati tonight, Saturday hosting Arizona. You end up winning by 16, 70-54. But this was something like, had we had an instant reaction, we would have like blasted this everywhere. You finished out on a 13-0 run over the last 4 minutes, but really it stretches back. Arizona, let's go. Scoring second half. Arizona's last points, 5:16 left in the game. There was 2 free throws, and that was to get them within 3 points. It brought them to 57-54.
Mm-hmm.
And then you went on a 13-0 run over the last 5 minutes and 16 seconds to win by 16. Before that, like you had up to a 6-point lead a couple of times throughout the second half. You came out of halftime up by 4, or is it up by 7? Whatever it was, because they scored the first few points in the second half.
Yeah, it was 7.
7. They score 7 to tie it, within the first 90 seconds of half. You're like, wow, that was a miserable way to come out of halftime.
Yes.
And then it's back and forth. You hit a couple shots, they do back and forth like that. They go on a 5-point run over about 2 minutes, between 10:20 and 8:22 left. They're all free throws, but they take you from a 6-point lead down to a 1-point lead. 8:22. You're like, man, this is going to be a game. It's going to be tight here the rest of the way. You put on a little 4-point run. Then they just hit 2 free throws. Their last field goal, Michael, came with 7:34 left in the game.
They, having 2 of those games back to back, because Kansas State was very
Same
similar,
thing.
except Tech also went on an
Yes.
awful. I mean, it was a double drought. It wasn't just a single drought. Tech didn't go on a 13-0 run during that awful stretch where the opponent just couldn't hit anything. And that's kind of where I was coming around to is I think with Kansas State, I felt like some of those shots you could credit Tech a little bit on playing defense, but a lot of these Arizona shots, they were just bricks, man. I want to credit Texas Tech's defense for that last 7 minutes plus of no field goals, but I don't know if I can so much. They just couldn't hit crap, man. It was terrible. I mean, they ended up, it was great. I mean, it was great for us. I'm not complaining, but yeah, I mean, Arizona, 17% from 3. They were 3 of 18 on the day, 31% from the field. And it's not like Tech was shooting lights out. Tech was 36% from the field, 26% from 3, 6 of 23. So they weren't setting the world on fire, but they were just able to make some shots in the last several minutes. And I'm not saying Tech got lucky by any means, because this was going to be a close game. Even if Arizona started making them, Tech could have still managed and been able to come out with the win. I'm not saying that, but that was a very good time for them to just completely go ice cold and brick every single thing they threw up.
And missed so many opportunities for rebounds.
Oh gosh, yeah. Completely I think Tech was plus 18 on rebounds. It was 50-32 on the day.
Yeah, and I'm looking at there's a little box here on the shooting box score within Stat Broadcast. Since media timeout at 4:17 left in the second half, it was 9-3 rebound advantage for Texas Tech. So Arizona was 0 for 9 over those last 4 minutes. Obviously, it's more if you go back, but whatever. Had 1 turnover, but only collected 3 rebounds over that entire 4 minutes. Texas Tech had 3 times as many. So it wasn't that Arizona was just missing shots. It was missing shots and then not getting a second chance at it. Texas Tech was taking the rebound, going the other way with it.
That's a great point. That's where you can credit Tech. I think it was just not in the cards for Arizona to make a shot the last 8 minutes of that game, but Texas Tech worked their tails off to get those rebounds and make sure that they didn't get multiple attempts.
And even like, yeah, I'm going to try to go back. All right, there's second half. Okay, I'm looking at their shot records or whatever you want to call them. So their last field goal came with 7:34 left. The next one before that, Michael, came with 12:14 left. They went 5 minutes. Like before they went on their 0 for, they went 5 minutes. So between 12:14 and the end of the game, like that stretch started at the end of one jump shot. It was a 2-point jump shot from KJ Lewis. 5 minutes, hit a layup. 7 minutes, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, they had some free throws in that 12 to 7 minute stretch, but I get exactly what you're saying. Yeah, 2 field goals in the last 12-14 of the game.
Yeah, so from 12-14, they went 2 for 16.
Jeez.
Absolutely ice cold.
And how many of those 16? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 were threes, including the last 8 in a row.
They were trying. They were just they bricked themselves out of that
Yep.
game at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, the last 8 from 340 on were threes.
So it's even more impressive that Tech got those rebounds, because those are, when you're bricking threes like that, they're going everywhere. you don't, you could be down low, it doesn't matter. I mean, a guard's going to get those. Those aren't, there's no telling where that's going to wind up. It might wind up in the stands.
KJ Lewis. I mean, you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think we shall.
25 minutes. This is a former Texas Tech player transferred out to Arizona. 25 minutes, 4 points, 1 of 7 shooting, 2 of 2 from the line. So this wasn't a guy that like transferred out like we saw in football, where like everybody that seemed like they had a former connection to the team just lit you up that day, except for Bowman. This one did not work out. I hate to see
Did
it.
not. Came off the bench too. Didn't start. His plus minus was, he had a minus 13, so
Oof.
not the best. Caleb Love actually had a minus 20, and I think that might have been because of all the bricked threes at the end of the game.
Yeah.
He had several of those.
So Texas Tech on a 3-game run here. Now will be off until Sunday, where they will host Oklahoma State, and they are struggling.
They are. That 4-point halftime score has ballooned a little bit. So Arizona is up 68-55 right now with just under 13 minutes to go.
So Haslametrics, you want to look at that projection. Oklahoma State's a 129th. This is according to tonight or today. Texas Tech was 12. It is a 20-point margin for Texas Tech, 82-62.
That seems high. I don't trust that.
Right. Well, it was also a pretty big margin when we hosted UCF, and obviously that didn't go well.
Yeah.
But the stats, though, Michael, it when you look at the stats of this team, you're like, okay, it makes sense now. They're scoring 70 points, 74 points a game. Opponents are scoring 73.9 points per game.
Oof.
They are shooting 42% from the field. Opponents are shooting 47% against them. They are shooting 32% from 3. Opponents are shooting 35% from 3.
Behind in all 3 of those.
Yeah. They are attempting a lot of free throws, 25.5 per game, and they are connecting on 72.5% of those. They do have a net plus rebounding margin, 36-32. But then they are, they're also positive in the turnover margin. They commit 13 but force 15.5. So between rebounding, they shoot a lot of free throws, and turnovers, everything else basically the other team leads. I don't coming into tonight, I didn't feel as good about Rob Rowe's projection of winning 5 in a row. I thought tonight was going to be a little bit tougher. Or I because of the game, how it played out, I thought tonight would have been the toughest test there. But you got through it, and then you get a not great Oklahoma State team at home. You just can't sleepwalk through any game. So like you can't just walk in and just assume you're going to win, right? You got to play well, you got to stay healthy, that kind of thing. I would assume that goes well for Texas Tech, and you get to win number 4 there in a row. And then you get to host TCU on Wednesday. We'll have a full preview for that next week. But you have Sunday, Wednesday this upcoming week. And then you get to go to Houston,
Oof.
host Baylor, to Arizona, host Arizona State, to Oklahoma State, to TCU, host West Virginia, host Houston, to Kansas, host Colorado, to Arizona State.
Yeah, I forgot. This is our only game against Kansas is on the road this year.
Yeah, you get one.
That was the one positive about Houston, was getting a home and home with them at least.
Yeah, you get a home and home with TCU. You play home and home with Oklahoma State. You only play Baylor once, and you host them, so
that works.
I can live with that. I don't love going back, home and home with Arizona and Arizona State, because I feel like you may have escaped one. And then you just, like we said, they kind of shot themselves out of it at the very end. Don't want to give them a second chance to figure that out, but I didn't write the schedule.
Yeah.
And I hate you end the season on the road, but I like your senior night game at Colorado, who is not good. But
yeah, Colorado currently 0-6 in the Big 12 with a 9-8 record.
We talked about Oklahoma State struggling. Colorado is struggling.
Yeah.
So you're now, what do we say? 5-2. So you got 13 conference games left, which feels like a lot. 6 weeks, 6.5 weeks of conference play left. With plenty to go. Like I said, 1 against Kansas, 2 against Arizona State, 2 against Oklahoma State, 2 against TCU, 2 against Houston. Schedule takes a step up, but
yeah, and number 23 ranked West Virginia, who, this last week took down Ohio, excuse me, skipping to the college football playoff, took down Iowa State, but then also lost pretty handily at Houston, so their ranking did not move. But anyway, in trouble right now, at home hosting Arizona State, who Arizona State is, they're 1-5 in the Big 12, Spencer, but they're in Morgantown and they're up by 11 with 6 minutes to go. So, like you said, you can't sleepwalk through any of these, and Tech has to play Arizona State, and they've got to take them just as seriously as they would anybody. Even going up to Colorado, I don't think I would take that too lightly either. And what else happened this? I thought there was some other. Man, I thought there was some other upset, but not really. Kansas lost to Iowa State, but that was up in Ames.
That wasn't an upset.
No,
it was
not at this point. A different year, maybe, but not this year.
They came back to beat Kansas State at home. Yeah.
Oh, I know what it was. I think Oklahoma State just about beat Houston. I think that's what it was. I think it was a 1-point victory for the Cougars. Let me go back and see if that's true. Because, if I say it, it's true. It's recorded for all of history. For all time.
Yeah, so if you look at
oh, it's UCF. That's my bad. UCF took Houston to the wire and lost by 1 at home.
Yeah. Houston is a 3rd in KenPom. Iowa State 4th. Kansas 8. Texas Tech 11. Arizona 18. Baylor 24. Just going through Big 12 teams, obviously. West Virginia 37. BYU 43. Cincinnati 45. Arizona State 62. Blah, blah, blah. Okay.
Is this Haslam?
It's KenPom as of right now.
Oh, KenPom. Okay.
But they have Texas Tech as the 7th best offense and 39th best defense. So that defensive number keeps climbing up.
Yep.
Yeah, love to see.
That's helping things.
Anything else basketball-wise? We got national title game to talk about if you want to. We got baseball updates to talk about.
I think just quickly, I'll give a quick Lady Raiders update. They're back on the board, folks. Started out with a win against Houston in Big 12 play and then lost 5 in a row and collected their first win in 2025, thankfully, this past Saturday versus BYU. Started to kind of give it away there towards the end, but hung around. Had a great showing from Jazz Shavers. I think she had, what did she have, 18? It's always like you just assume she has 18. Um, Let me see. I had that pulled up and then it went away from me. 19. Okay, I was close. So yeah, 33 minutes, 19 points. Bailey Maupin with 18. Just some good production off the bench from Maya Pete. Actually, she got in there for 18 minutes and had 6 points. Some of them were pretty crucial down low there towards the end. But just a good gritty game. Marcia Sharp was there. It was part of the 50-year celebration they're having right now. So, and Marcia Sharp was at the last home game too. She came and sat nearby us because one of the players happened to be there that was on her team who was honored, I think, earlier that evening. So that was kind of cool. She was just kind of floating around. But Texas Tech, Lady Raiders, 13-7, 2-5 in the Big 12. They've got a decent road ahead right now after their 5-point win versus BYU. They will be playing Wednesday at Houston. That game time has been moved up. I think it was at 7 p.m. and now it's at 1 p.m. to account for the weather. I'm not really sure what good that's going to do since there's snow in Houston right now. I don't know what earlier does, but maybe it's just better travel conditions than trying to travel home at night. That may be all that is. But Houston, who is not very good, they are 5-12 and 1-6 in Big 12. So kind of right there with the Lady Raiders, at least in the conference standings, but overall not as deep as a club. Well, it doesn't matter. They took down number 24 Oklahoma State this weekend. So kind of another exhibit A of you just got to play the game and see how it goes. So tomorrow, ESPN Plus, and tomorrow, I mean Wednesday, and then the Lady Raiders come back home Saturday. They host that Oklahoma State team who's 5-2 in Big 12 play at 2 p.m. and then turn around and take a little road trip to Kansas and Colorado for their following 2 games. And both of those are, Kansas is 2-5, Colorado's 3-4. So, Oklahoma State's going to be a tough team. Houston's going to be tough, but I feel like of these 4, the Lady Raiders have a really good chance to win 3 of them. And as always, listen to Seeing Scarlet. They will have much better and more interesting things to say.
Would do wonders to get people off of Gerlich's back.
Yes, I agree. There's a lot of fly-by-night fans who only pay attention to the Lady Raiders when they want to fire the coach.
Sorry.
Very, very interesting.
Scrolling through Discord and there was an official picking his nose at like.
Oh yeah, Mr. Root posted that.
Is that the guy from Baylor?
It was King McClure, wasn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Shut up. It's funny, but not that funny. Hold it together. All right. National title game was last night, Michael. Did you watch it?
I watched most of the first half, and then
what?
What do you mean? What?
You didn't watch the whole thing on?
Well, here's what I did. I watched all of the first half, and then after Ohio State went up 4 scores,
31-7.
I watched an episode of 3 Body Problem on Netflix. And then I came back. I came back. I just thought, I could kind of see where this might be going. And then sure enough, I missed all the fun parts where Notre Dame made a game of it and apparently went for a field goal instead of a touchdown in the red zone, and
Mm-hmm.
some other things that people are going to be second guessing. But hey, it did get interesting, and it was the closest finish to a CFP game title game since 2017, man.
But
So even though everyone was like, "Ugh,
it
should have
didn't
put
start that way.
Bama in, should have put Bama in, or whatever," yeah, of course they didn't, because that Notre Dame first drive was beautiful. I wanted to look it up.
9 minutes.
Oh, gorgeous. I don't know if I, I don't know how to look it up, but someone who is good at internet can figure out, and maybe they said it on the broadcast. My family was all over the place, so uh, I felt like that may have been the longest drive in a national championship game, at least in the playoff era. I don't know if it was maybe longest by plays and or time of possession. It's got to be up there, you would think, just because you go back and look at those scores and they're like 45-28, and 38
Okay.
to 3, and you're like, surely those drives weren't 9 minutes long ever.
CBS Sports, Michael, comes through and says with the 18 play, 75-yard, 9 minutes and 45-second drive, it was the longest drive in CFP or BCS history.
Ooh, that's 30 years.
But then they go 3 and out at
Yeah, yeah.
halftime, turnover on downs. Then they get they ran 18 plays in that first drive, then 3, 6, 7, 11. Their next 4 drives, 10-play drive touchdown, 12-play. I'm sure I wasn't in the game day thread, but I'm sure analytics Kyle was losing his mind when you're down by 2 scores, down by 16, to attempt a field goal that would have left you down by 2 scores. And then, as fate would have it, doinks it off the upright.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
brutal because the broadcast cut to the kicker's dad in the stands, and he was just
Oh no.
he just turned around and sat down. I was like, that sucks. He feels like absolutely trash for his guy, his son to miss that. But he didn't have to do that. Anyways, they did come back, scored another touchdown. Each of the second half touchdowns, Notre Dame did convert a 2-point conversion, so it went from down 24 to down 16 to down 8.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other analytic game decision that I disagreed with. So Ohio State kicks that field goal to go up 11 and essentially ices the game, right?
Yes.
But you have 30 seconds left. Ohio State has to kick you the ball. What you have to return that. You have to return that kick. You can't get 2 offensive drives. And they let the kick go over their head into the end zone for a touchback. It's like you.
Well, they didn't have any
You weren't-
timeouts by that
you
point
weren't-
either.
You weren't going to win. Very, very, but your only hope is you have to score very quickly. Maybe even a kick return for a touchdown type of you need that, and then an onside kick. But when you don't try to return a kick, you don't have time for 2 offensive drives. And then the field goal attempt, you hate that he missed it, but had he made the kick, it wouldn't have done anything for Notre Dame. I don't have the blue blood hate against Ohio State. I was rooting, air quotes, rooting for Ohio State in this game.
I was air
I
quotes
enjoyed it.
rooting for Notre Dame, and I'm fine. But no, I was very hopeful after that first drive that this was going to be a bit more of a back and forth than it turned out being. But credit to Notre Dame for coming back. I mean, they bounced back. They got it within 1 score. They were one incredibly poorly timed blitz away from forcing a punt, possibly, because I think that huge Will Howard pass that led to the go-ahead field goal was on 3rd and 10,
It's third and
if
a
I remember.
mile. Yeah, and they had single coverage across the board. And as the play was developing, the safety covering the inside receiver slipped and fell. Like,
Oh
he's
no!
open, and then he throws it. He's like, no, he's not open. It was the seam. And then of course, Jeremiah Gray, or whatever his name is, it Jeremiah
Jeremiah Smith,
Jeremiah Smith. Yeah, uh,
John
Jeremiah
Jacob
Smith
Jeremiah Smith.
makes that incredible catch on the sidelines. Like, okay, you're fine.
Yeah,
The
no,
other thing that I was
that was
having a
great.
hard time getting over was like, man, Will Howard was in the Big 12 last year. He played for Kansas State. And I don't remember him being that good.
He doesn't either.
He had an incredible game, a great season too.
He
But
did. What, he started out 14 to 15. I'm not sure. I didn't keep up beyond that, but
yeah, he finished I think he finished 17 to 21 on the day.
yeah,
It was just
that'll
stupid.
do it. I think Saban had a pretty good joke about, I can't remember Notre Dame's quarterback name, about Ohio State getting pressure to him and getting him down, and then he said, meanwhile, Will Howard's his pants are still white. He hasn't even seen the ground yet.
Yeah. Yeah, just man, I love to see Chip Kelly's offense. And it was like, obviously, like, you have to have everything, the right scenario happen to go from a sitting head coach who had experience running a highly successful program in Oregon, NFL experience, and then to have it not be going well enough to be on the hot seat, to want to leave a head coaching position to then be a coordinator. But that Ohio State offense, touchdown, 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 field goal, drive ended on a fumble, which was like their first lost fumble of the season, and it was the height of announcer jinx. Michael, they were coming out of timeout. They were saying Notre Dame needs a turnover. Ohio State doesn't fumble the ball, but they need a fumble, and literally on that play, fumbles and loses the ball.
Oh my gosh!
And it was close. He was going down, and then they reviewed it. It was clear it was out before he was down. But it was like, man, punt and then field goal. It was just a thing of beauty.
So they didn't score on 2 drives,
And one was a turnover.
Yeah, one was that turnover that just was very uncharacteristic.
Yeah.
Man,
What was driving me crazy about the Chip Kelly offense, though, was when they got supremely conservative, and it was literally just, we're just going to run Will Howard until they stop it, and they were stopping it. But then they weren't running with Judkins, they weren't running with Henderson, they weren't doing play action. It was literally just keep having Howard run it. And Notre Dame was just stacking the box. That's probably how they got that throw over the top. Because Notre Dame, yes, they finally did break through, but it was like, you probably could have had a play like that earlier.
Right. Maybe
anyway,
Kelly was just saving it. He was saving it. I did too. I mean, I did check out for an hour. I admitted that already, but I was interested in this game. I saw a lot of folks like, who, no one cares about this championship, and I'm thinking, okay, people say that every year, and I'm usually one of them, but this year I wasn't, and I thought these teams obviously played 3 playoff games to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And I care. I want to see how this goes. And I've, 31-7, you're like, okay, well, I kind of don't care anymore. But then when they came back a little bit and Ohio State coughed up the ball, I was back. I was back, man. I was caring. I was wanting to see how it would go. And to get the 8 2-point conversions back to back, huge.
Yeah, as entertaining or intriguing of a game as a 7-8 matchup could have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of 12 teams in the playoff, 7-8 were the last 2 standing. Which unfortunately means, Michael, we're in college football off season. spring practice, spring dates were announced. Spring schedule, excuse me. Practice starts March 10th. Spring game will be April 19th in the Jones. Good to see it back into the friendly confines of the home stadium. Outside of week 1 and spring break, practices are basically Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Scrimmages are on Saturdays. Well, you get 2 scrimmages, the 29th of March, 12th of April, and then spring game on the 19th. Mark your calendar, Michael.
I do. I have it. Actually, I don't. I need to.
Why would you admit that? You could have nobody would have known, Michael. Nobody would have known.
I have truthful Tourette's.
That's okay. I have a confession here at the end of the episode I want to talk to you about regarding my New Year's resolution and an update.
Okay.
All right, let's talk baseball real quick. Because it's around the corner. We're 30 something days out, not even 30 days out. 3 weeks out. First game is Valentine's, Friday the 14th. Will be a road trip at North Carolina for a 3-game series, which we'll get to that in a little bit. The athletics account, the baseball account did announce a sellout of season tickets, which is not a surprise. It's 11 straight years. To me, that tells you there's demand to add more seating. So what's the holdup? Besides having so many, middle of the afternoon games on a weekday and you don't fill it up. So you have a lot of empty seats. I don't know. That seems like it could be fixed. And the scheduling aspect of how Tim Tadlock likes to have his afternoons, I just don't like it. But you get to do you, man. But 11 straight years of selling out season tickets. That's fantastic. The tailgate dinner was also announced. I have attended this for several years. Always a good time. Get there and have a pretty good ribeye steak from Kegel's and a baked potato, and to see the team and hear from Coach Tadlock and a couple players and Robert Giovanetti. I've sat with our man Keith a few times. Anyways, if you're interested in going, Friday the 7th, tickets are on sale for $40 a piece, which sounds steep, but it's dinner plus the proceeds go to the program. Recom.co/tailgate25. You can nab your tickets there. Friday the 7th, 7 p.m. They also have a silent auction there as well. So you can bid on Texas Tech baseball memorabilia, see and talk to current players, former players, all that kind of stuff. So I have a hook in the water to see if we can get Keith Patrick to join us in the next couple of weeks to help preview and set the stage for the baseball season. Love to have him on. I think the last time we had him on was back in May as baseball season was wrapping up. Just throwing it out there, Keith, if you're listening. This streaming platform has many seats. You can join us whenever.
That's true. That's true.
We'd love to have you.
We'll pull the chair out.
Let's sit it right here.
Yes.
We've gone through done like a player by player roster update, but just a high level, just a reminder as we're just doing quick notes here. The roster is going to look and feel so much different this year, and it's not just key players that have moved on or graduated or whatever, but like just the vast number of new guys. You're gonna have 20 transfers on this team that weren't here last year. 12 from JUCO, 8 from Division I. So 20 new guys that were going to come in and surround your existing core. But be ready to have that printed out roster on hand when you're watching the first few games, when you're going to the first few games, learning everybody's name and number. So this is also preseason award season, preseason award season. Namely Perfect Game came out with their big group of awards. So we're going to run through those player by player. TJ Pompey was named third team All-American and then All Big 12 team. Was also tabbed as the number 30 sophomore nationally. Damian Bravo, All Big 12, 10th Big 12 top rated draft prospect for this season. Projecting out if he comes back would be number 1 for 2026 and the number 79 junior nationally. Tracer Lopez, Perfect Game, 12th Big 12 top rated draft prospect. So Bravo is 10th, Lopez is 12th. Trenton Parrish, Perfect Game, number 20 senior nationally. Peyton Schultz, Perfect Game, number 24 senior. Jace Souza, Perfect Game, number 28 freshman nationally. And then for those that don't remember, he's a Hawaii native. He missed the fall scrimmages in the Red and Black series with a leg injury, but is projected to be competing for a starting position out there in outfield, probably center field. So we'll have position breakdowns on that kind of stuff as we get closer. Position battles, new positions. Pompey may be playing third base this season, whereas he played shortstop and second base last season. We have that group of first baseman transfers that were coming in to fill the roster spot that was vacated by Gavin Cash, who's now with the Aggies. How could you do that? Play for Texas, play for Tech, play for Aggie. What a man. But you brought in the Tennessee transfer, Villanueva, and then Schultz. Mentioned the first games, February the 14th. So as your if you're not otherwise engaged that evening with plans, you've got baseball to take in. Road trip at North Carolina. It's a 3-game series out there in Chapel Hill. They were good last year, Michael. They were 48-16, 22-8. They made it to Omaha, which obviously is the top 8, last 8 teams remaining. They got there by defeating West Virginia and the Chapel Hill Super Regional. And then other notable teams they defeated en route to making Omaha as they eliminated LSU in extra innings to make it from their regional to make it to the Supers. If you remember, LSU was the national title winning team, not last season, but the season before. The other thing to be aware of, and I as much as Texas Tech is a whole new team with as many transfers are bringing the roster, North Carolina went 37-3 at home last year. 37-3. They lost 3 total home games all season. The following weekend, you'll be back home, so you won't have a midweek that first week. You'll have your first home series will be Friday the 21st through Sunday the 23rd versus the UC Irvine Anteaters. You're like, man, that doesn't sound like anybody. Well, they went 45-14 last season, 22-8 in their conference play, and they made it to the finals of the Corvallis Regional, where they fell to Oregon State. They were a fantastic road team, 20-6 last season, so they know how to take their show on the road. And also,
good luck. That's a good one to. That's a good opener.
The Anteater is just a phenomenal mascot.
So specific.
It's up there with the Gauchos, I think.
Yeah.
Which is also in the UC system there. But your first 2 baseball series, 6 games will be difficult. Get a College World Series team in North Carolina on the road, and then a regional final appearance from UC Irvine back at home. Baseball is so close. All right. Let's wrap this thing up, Michael. Get to what we learned, and then get us out of here and get ready for Sunday matchup versus Oklahoma State, and then our next episode on Tuesday. What do you say?
Sounds good.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
All right. In transparency mode here, Michael, we talked about New Year's resolutions last week, or maybe the week before. And I said one of mine was to be drawn off sides less often. And I want to report that's not going well for me.
It is January 21st.
I actually think what is it? Is it the second Friday in January where they call it like Quitters Day? When they talk about all the people that have abandoned their New Year's resolutions.
Where the gyms open back up.
Yeah, you get all the machines are back and everything's
Yeah.
clean again. Um, it was it's my own doing. It obviously is. It's me not controlling me reacting to somebody else, and I shouldn't have said anything. It didn't help that yesterday was inauguration day, and that just brought a little extra feistiness in people.
Everyone's on a little more of an edge.
And it didn't help. Like, okay, so I got I got drawn off sides into a Facebook
Oh no.
comment section. No, it wasn't
Oh,
it wasn't in a group. It was with a high school friend of mine. Um,
that you actually talked to?
no, not. I mean, we were friends in high school, but
Mm.
we've, anyways. Um, so interesting enough, her mom was my high school English teacher, and now she teaches that same high school English class at the same high school that we went to. So she took her mom's job basically when she retired.
That is interesting.
Um, and nothing. I'm not saying there's anything weird about that. Like
No, that's kind of
her mom was a good
a
teacher.
legacy.
Yeah, yeah. Anyways, um, I don't want to go like I'm not here to give any kind of value judgment or opinion here, but it was based on the speech that Elon Musk gave following the inauguration. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look it up. There was something he did that had some people upset. And stupid Spencer, I waded into this comment section and um the especially stupid Spencers. I didn't even like I had very little context of it. Um I saw pictures only and I was like, what are you talking about? Like that I mean, you can find anybody on stage that waves and makes a generalized gesture that looks kind of like that. Like, why are we so upset? And then I saw like gifs of it, and I was like, okay, that doesn't look so good. But then I saw the full video within the context of the speech. I was like, well, now I'm back on the. I was like, this is stupid. I should have just put the phone down, just backed out of the whatever. It was stupid. So I'm it's social media, man. It's commenting or replying to people on Facebook or Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even if there wasn't inauguration day, I also got drawn off sides by all the Mahomes hate on over the weekend about how the NFL protects him, especially the Houston Texans fans. Like,
Oh
you
man.
know that you can't dive at a player that's sliding, right? Like, yes, the two defenders hit themselves, but they also both hit Mahomes in the head, who was on his butt as he was sliding. Like, you can be upset that you lost, but you can't be upset that that was a penalty. Like,
Yeah.
that was
So
very clearly a penalty.
we were out running errands during that game because I, I purposefully was like, hey, I want to stay and watch this Tech Arizona game, and then when that's over, we'll do whatever we need to do on our way to the Lady Raiders game. So you know, that unfortunately left that block in between those two games. I pretty much missed the KC game altogether. I kept up with it on my app. We ate at Torchy's for dinner. I got to see some of it, so I missed all the discourse about it. But kind of referencing what you just said, the next morning, I think I was on Facebook, which is always a good idea. And the guy I graduated high school with 20 something years ago, I'd never talked with since then. it was just going off and off about he was obviously a Texans fan and he never posts. Like he just rarely ever posts. And so I knew, oh, okay, well, if he's posting it, then this must be the narrative. And sure enough, I went on Twitter and like, holy crap, this is all over the place. And I'm kind of like you. I realized I didn't have enough context to weigh in or say anything about it, but I just in my heart of hearts, I knew it was blown out of proportion because this is how I
As
used to
everything
feel.
is.
This is how I used to feel about the Patriots years ago. I hated them so much. I wanted them to lose so badly. Every time they won, it was because of some, it wasn't because Brady was fantastic or the defense just played lights out, which probably happened. It was because of some other thing that I probably came up with to make myself to cope. So yeah, I think that's where people are right now. But I'm on the other side of it now and I'm enjoying it. Like, oh, that's great. Say what you want.
Suck
Maybe,
less.
yeah, maybe score some points, Houston. Maybe that's what you should do. Put some points on the board. Let's catch that 2 point conversion there at the end, or whoever. No, I've got that
No,
mixed up with a
that was
different
Mark
game.
Andrews
That
and the
was
Ravens.
Bills Ravens. Yeah, my bad.
It's okay. So yeah, I before we even hit inauguration day, I was already. It was you know what, I'm gonna blame that. I was primed because of my interactions over the weekend, dealing with Texans fans, and it wasn't just like so. One of them was a guy I coached with, and not like on my team, but I coached against him in Little League for several years. He and I
Hmm.
have a son about the same age, and he's a huge Astros fan. So like he basically only posts Houston sports related stuff. Um, so he and I had a lot of fun in the ALCS a couple years ago. Um, well, I had a lot of fun. And then this came up, and he was I'm so sick of it. And then all the Houston players coming out and saying we knew it was gonna be tough, but,
Oh
having
yeah,
to take
playing
on
against. Oh come on.
the Chiefs and the refs, blah blah blah. Such a soft, brain
Just
dead
absolute.
mentality.
Just yeah, 10 ply. Yeah, I think the other thing that I think gets them so worked up, and I enjoy this too, is because at least out here where we live, you're probably 10 times more likely to come across a Kansas City Chiefs fan than a Houston Texans fan. And we live in Texas. And I think that's what rubs them. And I get it, probably rightfully so to an extent.
We're all
Yes, I'm a,
bandwagon fans.
yeah, absolutely. We were bandwagon fans, but there's so many more than just us. There's so many more than just Tech alumni. There's bandwagon Taylor Swift, Jason Kelsey romance fans that love the Chiefs now. I mean, there's believe it or not, I think there's people who like Brittany Mahomes, and they might be fans of the Chiefs because of that. And I think there's just all this crossover of people like Andy Reid. I mean, he's a good coach. He's been in it forever. His offenses are fun. I think there's so many other bandwagon hopper honors, and we're just part of that group. And I think Texans Texans fans just really take it personally, and I kind of get it. You're kind of like you're like a Rangers fan who's talking to someone who's, I don't want to say a Yankees fan, but close. But they grew up in Seagraves. It's just kind of the same. Why do you love Kansas City so much? You grew up in Merkel, Texas. Oh well, big fan. Always have been. Just love AFC football and
Yeah.
well,
Anyways,
I mean, really, Houston screwed up. If the Oilers hadn't left, and a whole different, might be a different ball game right now. Who knows?
yeah. So just a quick little New Year's resolution update. It's not going well for me. I just need to put the
You're
phone
good.
down.
You've got 300. I don't know how many days left. You're fine.
40,
350.
365 minus 21, 343,
Yeah,
344.
yeah, you're good. I round up.
So, all right. You got anything, Michael?
I don't, man. I didn't learn much this week.
That's okay.
It's very cold. I've learned that all those times I complain about the heat, I'm still going to do it, but I am going to admit that 9 is cold.
Yeah, it was 6 degrees this morning.
Oh, 6 is colder,
So,
measurably colder.
3 degrees.
Yes, you can actually quantify that.
Yeah. Well, all right. That'll do it for us on the 23 Personnel Podcast. Texas Tech takes down Cincinnati 81-71, getting ready for the matchup at home versus the Oklahoma State Cowboys on Sunday afternoon. We'll be back Tuesday night to recap that game and preview the next night's game versus TCU. Texas Tech on a little bit of a streak here. We're starting our countdown to baseball. But for Michael, I'm Spencer. I'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you for listening to the 23 Personnel Podcast. Help us out by subscribing, rating the show, and leaving a review. Follow us on Twitter at 23 Personnel, Spencer at FunSuck, and Michael at Michael_LBK. Be sure to catch the next episode. And until then, guns up and let the tortillas fly.
Well, alrighty then.